Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Today, a subject very close to my own heart, a subject that really interests me. It's the 1989 Sauber-Mercedes C9 Sports Prototype Group C or Le Mans Series car from Tamiya. It's quite a recent release, this, in the last, I think, 6-12 months. So it's quite a new kit that's come out. They're number 359, 24th scale. And I say it's close to my heart because I remember watching, I think it's the first time I ever saw the start of the Le Mans sports car race, which is always in mid-June, in France. And it was on British TV for the first time ever, I think, live, without satellite TV, you know. It was on the BBC at the time in 1989. I actually watched they showed the first 15 or 20 minutes, and I was absolutely, it just grabbed me straight away. Now, it was quite an interesting time. I mean, over history, Le Mans sports cars, they can sometimes seem a bit dull, I think. But this was not one of those periods. This is a period when it became very exciting. Mercedes came back into the sport after a gap of what, 34 years, something like that, 34 years. Obviously after they had this terrible tragedy in the 1955 Le Mans sports car race, when one of their cars, driven by Frenchman Pierre Levey, clipped. There was an incident involving the British driver Mike Hawthorne and Lawrence Macklin, and there was a little bit of a collision, and then this car flipped and went into the crowd, and it burst into flames. It just shattered into several pieces, and it caused absolute devastation. 55 people, sorry, I think 89 people, sorry, I'm getting the numbers mixed up. I think 89 people died, and something like 120 were horribly injured, and some absolutely horrendous stories. The engine gearbox went through the crowd like an anvil at 160 miles an hour. And it just cut a swathe through these poor people that were just watching the race. And the car, because it was mainly a magnesium frame to make it light, a magnesium alloy frame, it just burned and burned and burned, and it was like spitting magnesium bits everywhere, and they couldn't put it out, the fire. Levey was killed instantly, along with all these other people. So it was an absolute tragedy. And Mercedes pulled out of the race, never came back until I think 87, 88. And then in 88 they actually had to pull out again because they had some tyre trouble. So in 89 they came back dead serious. Peter Sauber, of course, became synonymous with Formula 1. And he's still around today with the Alfa Romeo team in the background anyway. He engineered these cars. Sauber provided the car, in effect. Mercedes effectively bankrolled him, but they actually provided the engine. It's a V8 twin turbo, and I've got to say, one of the reasons I was so excited by these is the noise they make. I can't even do an impersonation of it. It's this sort of very baritone, burbling sound. It's fantastic to hear it. If you go on YouTube and put Mercedes or Sauber C9, and you'll hear it. It makes a fantastic noise. It has the exhaust coming straight out the side, so you can see, as we'll zoom in a bit more in a minute, but you can see that the exhaust almost goes straight out from the engine, straight out the car, you know. And they're amazing, and they had some great drivers driving for them. You know, people like Jochen Mass, Mauro Baldi, who was a Formula 1 driver at one point, Stanley Dickens. This case it's Mass, Manuel Reuter, they're both Germans. Stanley Dickens was a Swedish guy. These guys were actually the third, I think, of the Mercs at the start of the race, and theirs turned out to be the most reliable car, and it actually came through to win the race at Le Mans in 89. And it was a wonderful season for them as well. And you've got to bear in mind the competition then was far more interesting. There was much more competition. You had a lot of privately owned Porsches, 956, 962s, which were the class of the field and had been for years, winning the Le Mans race over and over again with people like Derek Bell and Jackie X, becoming multiple champions. Then in the mid-80s, sort of 86, 87, you had the Silk Cut sponsoring the Jaguar team, with their big V12 normally aspirated cars, and they were epic. And this year you had this sort of three-way battle, Porsche, Jaguar and Mercedes. It was a real clash of the titans, and a very, very good year. Mercedes pulled it off and actually won the title. I think they won every race apart from one. But eventually the Silk Cut Jaguars, they just refined their package more and more, and they became, in the next year or two, they became kind of more the dominant force. But this car was developed into, they had a C10 and a C11. I think it was a C11 version that Micheal Schumacher actually also raced at Le Mans in 1991, just before it became famous, before he had his Formula 1 debut. So there's a lot of history here. Anyway, enough of the background. As I say, if you ever get a chance to see one of these run, they ran it at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, I think last year or the year before, maybe twice. And it sounded great there, but one of the videos I saw, it was in the rain, so you never heard it quite at full chat. But they're a wonderful machine. And it sort of beat Porsche and Jaguar at their own game, you could argue. And they had lots of great drivers driving for them. Anyway, this is the one that won Le Mans, and basically it went on to win the title. Let's have a look at this kit in some more detail. Now, I was actually out and I bought this at a model shop, a physical model shop in Chester. There is one left there, and I've got to be honest, I went to see the Chester city centre. It was a bit run down looking, I thought, recently. So I went in the model shop, and there was a lot of shops are boarded up, and I think the rents are very high, and there's a lot of retailers have moved out of the city. And I went in the model shop, and I felt a little bit sorry for them actually, but they had this, and I thought, wow, you know, I've always wanted one of these. Will I build it? Yes, I think I will. I think I'll build this at some point, because it's a subject I've always been interested in. I love the look of the car, love the way it sounds. What's not to like? Tamiya, it's going to be brilliant, isn't it? You can see, you can guess, put your bets. Would it be a 9, 9.5 or a 10 out of 10? It's going to be one of those, I think, isn't it? Let's have a zoom in, you can have a proper look at it. So you can see here straight away this twin turbo V8 that makes this wonderful sound I was talking about. There we go, you can see it in a little bit more detail now, with its exhaust that comes straight out of the side and literally go out the side panels of the car. So there is a very minimalist exhaust system. Obviously you've got your turbocharger here. What does it say on the front? So it says 124 scale sports car series, highly detailed static display model. The sleek form is captured realistically, and it features detailed depiction of the V8 twin turbo engine, suspension and cockpit interior, photo etch parts of the turbo, unit heat shield, radiator, intercooler core and seatbelt buckles, plus a stainless steel antenna and masking stickers to help you with the paint job. That's fantastic. Come out a little bit, a bit too zoomed onto there. And it's got it's a nice looking car, isn't it? Photo etch parts are included, it shows them here. How about that? On the side we have got a nice depiction of the car on its side view form. And it says about the Mercedes C9, this car is developed in partnership with Mercedes and the racing team led by Peter Sauber. Designed around an aluminium monocoque using a 5-litre V8 twin-turbo engine, in 1989 it took 7 wins in an 8 World Series Prototype Championship, securing both teams and drivers' titles. Perhaps the most famous endurance race of them all, it won as well. How about that? Isn't that gorgeous? What a nice machine. On the other side you've got like a plan view overhead shot, and then it tells you which paints to use. LP70, okay. Lacquer paint 70, that's the one they're recommending. TS29 gloss, semi-gloss black, XF16 flat aluminium and a bit of metallic grey XF56. You have the official endorsement of Mercedes there as well. So, there we have it. What is not to like? Let's have a look. Now, this one has come sealed, which is unusual for Tamiya. I've got a feeling that's the model shop trying to stop people opening it and meddling with it. So that's not the norm with Tamiya kits. It was quite an eye-opener to see the model shop prices. They're not a dear model shop, they tend to sell at recommended retail. But just for your interest, before we get into the kit, 3 models that I picked up on with great interest that I have, all 3 of them. One was the F14 Tomcat from Tamiya, which was £100, what, $99.99. Sorry, it was $89.99. The standard F14A, the original release from 2017. And then there was the 2021 launch position version. That was another £10 dearer, which I thought was quite good value really. Only £10 more expensive because you get a figure and you get the launch position wings and you get like a base, like a carrier deck. So for £10, that seems not a lot more money. And then the most eye-opening and eye-watering of them all was the 32nd scale Tamiya Mosquito Mark 6, which is a beautiful kit, of course. Now I've got that, and I only haven't built it because I haven't got room really at the moment for it. But I want to build that a lot. Definitely won't be ever selling this, or it will get built. I just probably need to get into the cabinet. Anyway, it was £220 now. Unbelievable. Right, let's concentrate on the Sauber-Mercedes and that roaring, beautiful V8 engine it's got. So here we go. First time I've looked at it. Over there. Clear parts. Oh yes, they've even got it in the appropriate colours. Almost. That's sort of a grey silver. And then we've got multiple sprues and decals. Photo etch, top tips and the destructions. Let's have a look at them. Don't think we need the top tips, do we? Not really. So, it gives a bit more detail here. So here we go. Let's have a little zoom into this. Yep, nice illustration. And it says, oh, it's a little bit more background here. Now, I haven't read any of this before, so we'll see if it's any correlation with what I was saying. I know what I'm talking about. 37 years after the first and ever since the only Mercedes-Benz success in the legendary Le Mans 24-hour race in France, the Sauber-Mercedes C9 achieved a 1-2 finish in 1989. This Sauber-Mercedes C9 was developed by the Swiss Sauber racing team under its leader Peter Sauber, and the powertrain came from Mercedes-Benz. Just as with its predecessor, the C8, it first competed in 1987 as one of the Group C racing cars and won the season finale in the Group C Super Cup at the Nürburgring with Jean-Louis Schlesser at the wheel. In the 88 season, starting under the name of Sauber-Mercedes, the racing car won 8 races. For the 89 season, the C9 was equipped with the new 4.973 litre bi-turbo V8 M119HL with 4-valve technology, which generated up to 925 horsepower for a short time in qualifying. During the actual race, it was detuned to 720 horsepower only. For the 1989 season, the C9 not only had been technically enhanced, it was also given a silver paint finish. This was an unmistakable signal that Mercedes-Benz were once again back on track to achieve victories as a factory works team. Mercedes-Benz also achieved a 1-2 finish in the legendary French endurance race with the new Sauber-Mercedes C9 silver arrows, just like in 1952 with the 300SL silver racing car, the W194. A third vehicle finished in 5th place as well. The C9 was the superior car of the season and the first winning silver arrow since 1955. I noticed they don't actually mention the tragedy. Jean-Louis Schlesser became the driver's world champion in 1989 after no less than 7 victories. Jochen Mass was the runner-up and Sauber-Mercedes won the team's classification. There we go. Right then, let's just get organised so we can do a proper review on this. It's going to be a bit of a long one, I think, this one, because there's quite a lot of kit, actually. So let's just pop that out of the way and we'll zoom you in so you can see these instructions. Like so. There we go. So, starts off, looks like we're going to, obviously you've got the usual Tamiya intro, it's all the same, isn't it? So you're building up your floor, you've got like a ground effect area here. You've got these Venturi tunnels, a bit like we got now in the Formula 1 cars as well. See them here? Both sides, the gearbox. So you're going to build up your floor, put your rear suspension wishbones in, and you've got some shockers going in here. That's for the front, they're going to go in there. Then you're building up your radiators, and I think I maybe zoomed too much. There we go. Building up your radiators, and then your front brakes and hubs, wheel hubs, wheel discs, brake pads, etc. Calipers going in. Then we've got the lovely Mercedes engine, the V8 being built up here. Now with these kits, I have to say I've got quite a lot of experience of doing the racing cars. You do need to take your time and you need to do the fine painting. You know, a lot of it you probably end up doing by hand. Bigger areas obviously you might spray, but there's a lot of sort of highlighting and detail painting that you're probably going to need a brush for. So here we've got our gearbox being built up, cross members supporting the gearbox going in there too, and then you've got your rear wheel hubs and drive shafts here. Again, quite a lot of fine painting here, detail work to be done. Then you're going to attach it to the rear diffuser area. The engine gearbox goes in as one piece, and then you've got your lower support bar here with the towing hook underneath it, and it's like the effectively the upper members for the rear of the chassis. Then we're going to start building up these intercoolers, intercooler radiators that go on the bulkhead, including you've got the refueling caps. There's one on both sides. That's because obviously some circuits depends on the circuit direction. Sometimes they're coming on clockwise and sometimes they're on anti-clockwise, so they need to have a fueling cap on both sides. Then you've got your part of the rear uprights and the back of the bulkhead, and you've got these what should we call them, like torsion bar type suspension arms. And you're going to build up your seat belts, which I think is from the sticker sheet. Okay, they're not the best in the world, but they're okay. They're okay. I have done them a couple of times, but they're alright. You just got to be patient and cut them out accurately. Then you've got your driver's seat here that goes in the cockpit. Then you've got your fire extinguisher and 1 or 2 bits of detail work that goes behind the seat. And then you're going to bring this sort of cockpit area you've constructed into your bulkhead. And you're going to build here, you're going to go for the instruments and the dashboard. And then you've got your turbos and your exhaust system here. Twin turbos both sides. You've got your turbo wastegate and your header or manifold from the exhausts. Plus you've got an air intake box here, like a plenum chamber. Other side, same again, just rinse and repeat really. Then you're going to build up your tyres, put your tyres and your wheels in together, and then you have got some sort of heat shielding plates here that are going to go in above those turbos and exhaust system. It's going to be very, very hot obviously. And then we get into the bodywork properly, and we're going to have the intakes on the side, because they have these huge air intakes like knacker ducts. You've got your windscreen going in. There's a masking sticker for the windscreen, you need to pay attention to that. And then you're going to attach your windows and your headlight covers and your windscreen wiper and your ring around your fuel tank, fuel filler cap. And then we've got the little bonnet goes on the front there. We've got a couple of mirrors going on, and the mirrors have got different, depending on which version, they have different markings on the rear. One's got like dots on it, one's got I think day glow orange, and one's got like day glow green, so that they can identify the cars in the distance just by the colours. Just differentiate them. They did the same in Formula 1. If you watched the Grand Prix recently, in the Silverstone Grand Prix for example, Charles Leclerc has got a plain, his wheel covers are all plain black, whereas Ferrari's other driver who won the British Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz, he's got these day glow flashes on his wheel covers, and I think on his mirrors and his front wing as well. Again, it makes it easy to spot him in the distance. Then you've got this lovely huge rear wing and this very heavy duty mounting, central mounting, twin pillar mounting that it goes on. And then you've got those little intakes, cooling intakes for the rear, and your light lenses going in. And then you ultimately finish off the kit by installing your rear cowling, and you've got 1 or 2 antennas to go in and a couple of covers that go over the bodywork. Now those covers I think are optional depending on the circuit, because I think at some circuits they may not have these covers. I think they're dependent on how much cooling is required. And then finally we've got the final painting and markings going on. And there you have it. That looks very nice, I have to say. It's all, the instructions look very kind of standard, shall I say, standard Tamiya fare, what you'd expect. I've done their car kits and yeah, I've not had any real issues. Also the motorbike kit I do, not had any real issues in terms of following the instructions at all. So let's have a look at what we've actually got. Well, I suppose I don't really need to open this one because it's so clear to see anyway. This is our photo etch. So we've got seat belts, we've got these rings for the fuel cap surround, and then we've got that heat shielding I just spoke about here. It's heat shielding around the exhaust system. Bit of a grate there for one of the radiators. I think these are the turbo intercoolers at the side. They've got grates as well. It's quite a nice bit of photo etch that actually, and it doesn't seem quite as thick. Tamiya, I think, are getting the message. It's not quite as thick as normal. Sometimes it's super thick, but it's a really nice sheet of photo etch, and you've got all your seat belt buckles here, as you can see. Yeah, nice photo etch that. Very good. Decals. Big little, actually we're back to these, sorry, singing out a bit. We're back to the old Tamiya staples, I'm afraid. They do like their staples, don't they? I hate them. I don't know why they can't get a resealable plate like other people do. You know, ICM do it better, don't they, in this respect? It's Tamiya's one failing. Two is decals and staples, and I don't like the staples especially. I hate it because if you've got a kit doing a review on it, you don't want to be sliding it in over a staple because you'll scratch it quite easily. It's not going to take much to give it a really bad scratching at all. If I can just get this out. There we go. Where'd it go? Right, now let's have a look. I think it merits a bit of a closer inspection on this one. Just get them all out. So here we've got the masking set. We've got the rather nice Willens seat belts, and as you can see, it's just a self-adhesive label, really, if you like. It's the way that they've done it, but it works pretty well if you're careful the way you cut it out. You need to be very precise with your cutting there, so just be careful on that. Then we have the masking set, and the only grumble here for me is that oh, there's two. Why are there two? I think one's an outer and one's an inner, so you can get like a stripe around the outside of the screen at the top. So what you do, of course, is you put the first one on for the inner parts, and then you can mask them effectively separately, one on top of the other, to get the sort of the windscreen surround effect. So the smaller aperture here is the way the actual windscreen looks, but the bigger one is the entirety of it, including this masked up area that's got Sauber logos on it and thing. And then you got obviously your headlight masks. The only problem is you've got to cut these out yourself, which is a little bit vexing. I don't know why Tamiya can't move with the times and give us pre-cut ones. Then we have got our reversed out. These are these tyre. They're kind of in reverse, aren't they? They're very sticky decals. Yeah, they are a decal. And this is going on the tyres, your Michelin tyres. Or Michelin, I should say. Pronounce it correctly. Then we have got the three options of this year's championship for the Mercedes team. You've got 61, 62 and 63. 63 is the one that won the race in the end, of course. And then I talked about this day glow, a bit like in Formula 1 with the Ferrari team. Day glow, exactly what they do. Day glow orange or day glow green. And if it hasn't got anything but effectively silver, then that's the other car. And so here we got Mauro Boldi, Kenny Atchison, Gianfranco Brancatelli, and then we've got Jean-Louis Slesser, Jean-Pierre Jabouin. There's a blast from the past. He was a Formula 1 driver with the Renault team in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, and Alain Cudini, and then of course Mass Reuter and Dickens, who won the race. That's these guys here. Yeah, Le Mans. And then you've got Little Michelin Man. See that? Bibendum, the Michelin Man. Here he is. Cool. And you've got the 24 Caravan Eudemont, the 24 hours at Le Mans. Yeah, nice, very nice. They've got some nice sort of, don't know if you can really see this on the camera, but quite nice metallic effects on some of these decals. Mercedes silver effect is really well done. So those, in fairness, look really nice, and they seem a bit thinner as well. Don't seem quite the usual nasty thick Tamiya decals that we all fear so much, of course. Let's get that back in the bag. He says, which is not going to be easy. It never is. Okay. Right. There we go. Now let's take a look at the plastic. No messing about. Now bear with me because I think we're going to have a bit of a staple fest here today. I do wish to drop on my two. But this is my own kit, so I mean I wear the gloves just in case one day I change my mind and decide to sell them. You don't want finger marks all over them, you just don't. I mean I wear the gloves anyway when I'm modelling because if you're not careful, especially on something that's like this, it's not a warbird or a tank, you know, it has to have a really perfect finish and you don't want any finger marking or transferring glue or paint, solvent or anything else. You don't want to have any of that stuff happening. It's got to be perfect. Now, here we are. Here's those cooling vents above the sort of wheel arches that I just talked about in the instructions. See what I mean? You can see that they've got these open cooling vents. Now those are covered at some races, and some races they might be open. You can see the quality of the plastic is very, very high, but it's not so high, especially when you've got this silver type plastic. You can see there are blemishes. This is not on the surface, it's within the plastic, it's just the way it's cooled at different rates. You couldn't really get away, I don't think, with not painting this one, because you can see there's some very clear, obvious flaws, if you will, within the plastic. It's not a flaw on the surface, it's inside, but the fact is you can see it. So you need to paint them, it's going to have to be painted. And then you've got this very detailed rear end with this quite characteristic sort of circular rear lights that the C9 has. What have we got here? This is 1990. Now that's interesting. So I'm sure this must be a re-release then, because I'm sure that it was re-released. Okay, obviously the tooling dates back to 1990. I know what happened. I've remembered. I have just recalled what Tamiya said last year when they re-released this. What they've done is they've added the photo etch and they've upgraded the decals to cartograph. And it mentions that on the actual box. Did you saw that? They make a big song and dance about it in a way that they wouldn't have done in the past. You look at there, underneath where it says 1989, it's got the cartograph logo, as you can see. So this is what they've done. They've re-released a very popular old kit. Obviously it came out the year after it was in the racing series, and they've upgraded it and updated it by cartograph decals, which is why I just realised I said it, didn't I? They weren't to stick those decals, that's why, it's because they're cartograph. So they've got some much nicer decals, they've got some nice photo etch, so they've basically got an older kit, older tooling, and they've updated it a little bit. 1990s kits by Tamiya, no problem, I can assure you. I mean, some of their Formula 1 kits are really nice as well. And they date back to that era, and they're not really a problem. So that's a lovely, lovely sprue there. Pop that back in, over there. Then we've got our clear parts, which we'll have a good look at. He says, get into this. These darn staples, honestly. Why Tamiya? Please don't keep doing this. It just irritates me. I mean, I can almost understand it. These might have been it doesn't come out, does it? I don't know if these have been pre-produced because they are older tool. It might mean that maybe they were already bagged up from long ago, who knows? Probably not that. I don't think that Tamiya hold big stocks. Oh, that's just flown off. Where's that gone? Where's that gone? It's gone somewhere. On the floor. Here we go. Yes, got some nice clear parts here. Tamiya are usually really good at this, to be fair. Now it's interesting, isn't it? We've got a big windscreen here. But I just want to draw your attention to something we chatted about recently in one of my other vids. Talking about clear parts and why do we have to have these seam lines down these cockpits for jet fighters. Now, here's a Tamiya. This is a huge piece of, you know, clear, transparent plastic. Very nicely done. There's no seam lines here. No, there isn't. That's not a seam line, folks. That's the window. On the real car, it's a sliding window. And the driver just slides it back and forth. But that's perfect. Yeah, flawless pretty much. A little bit of distortion in one of those. Not sure if you can make this out. A little bit of distortion, I think, in this one. This one's a little bit distorted compared to that one. I don't think you're maybe going to spot it. Oh yeah, maybe you can. This one looks a bit more perfect to me on the left. One on the right's not so perfect. But they're very bright and clear and crisp looking. But my point is, you know, it just proves that you can do big pieces of plastic that's clear, as good as that. So why do we need to have a seam line then in a canopy on an aeroplane? We don't, do we? I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it at all. Right, now then, we've got some tyres, which are slicks. Now they have got a seam on them. Oops, sorry. I'll have to open it I think to get at it. Take a look at this one. There we go. There we go. It's a typical tyre. Sorry. There we are. Now it's got a seam, so you probably have to sand that off. Just a sanding stick, you'll be able to remove that, I think. But those are quite nice tyres. They're always fairly decent, their tyres. But they do have this seam line. One or two other manufacturers seem to get away without it now. Or have them so very faint that they don't really need much attention. There's also some poly caps in this bag. Let me just make them out. Yeah. So that's your tyres. Then we have... oh, I have more staples. Oh, what a surprise. One. So it's dangerous, aren't they, as well? If you've got little children in the house, you know, you don't want these flying about for them to swallow. I'm not impressed with that. Now then, engine and gearbox, here we go. Now this is where Tamiya really score on some of their nice detail parts on things like engines. You know, you've got your disc brakes here, your calipers. I think they're Brembos on this, Brembo. And then you've got your intercoolers here and here for your turbos, engine and gearbox all in one great big piece. And you've got those uprights, those almost like a pull rod sort of system, torsion bar system for the suspension behind the bulkhead here and here. And then you've got the front shockers hiding out down here and here. And there's your main radiator at the front. Looks very nice, very detailed. Usual Tamiya thing really, very nice indeed. Then we have got the bulkheads. And you can see here, this is the tub, the cockpit area, that's the back, this is the front. That's the rear of the bulkhead. You're looking at the back of the bulkhead here, that's why it's got more detail than it has on this side. And then you've got these NACA ducts, these air intake ducts for the engine, which are quite big and deep, kind of like a slide moulded arrangement. Look at those, those are nice, aren't they? Very nice. And here you've got your fuel filler nozzles and cap. You've got your mirrors here, there. And then you've got your steering rack here, or rather the sort of con rod, tie rod. And there's your gear change. This is the year of the first year in Formula 1 we had the semi-automatic paddle shift, but it hadn't got through to the rest of motorsport, so just behind my finger here is a conventional gear shifter, as you can see. And then you've got this is your bonnet at the front here, such as it is, this piece. Very nice indeed, I've got to say. And then finally, it doesn't seem to take all that long in the end, did it? We have got a nice bit of the black. This is where we have the carbon fibre coming in on the real car for the under tray and the diffuser at the rear. There we are. That's nice actually. Oh, that's very nice. Look at that. Look at the ground effect under tray with the Venturi tunnels that we've got here. Look. Look at that. Blade. Look at that. That's nice, isn't it? See it? That's it from the rear. I'm quite liking that. It's quite a strong Venturi tunnel actually. It's quite a deep thing, isn't it? It's got quite, I suspect there's a fair bit of ground effect here. More than I might have anticipated. It's nice, isn't it? Look at it, profile it the other way. Turn it away from you, can then see those tunnels. Ground effect tunnels, yeah. And then here is the front section. And then we've got our wheels here. And you've got your driver's seat. The back of the seat, you've got the wishbones for the suspension. Just near my finger here you've got the windscreen wiper. And you've got over here, you've got the headers or exhaust manifolds as we call them in the UK. You've even got the drive belts here connected to the alternator and everything here. See that? That's nice. And you've got the lower wishbone members on the gearbox there. Here's that plenum chamber, air intake into the engine. And then you've got your rear wing here, big rear wing spoiler. And this is the lower half of the floor, underneath where the steering rack goes. And here is your steering wheel. Look at that. Cool. I'm sure black is the best colour to show on the video, but and then finally you've got your rear hubs here. Rear hubs with your drive shafts. It's pretty nice, isn't it? To be honest. It's pretty nice. Now I hadn't actually realised when I bought this, I didn't realise it was actually from 1990. And yet, I always thought they'd had one before, you know. But it's a very nice kit. I'm sure this will build up really, really nicely, especially if you get the right, if you can get a nice paint job on it, which is going to be critical with this, to get that silver finish right. You don't want it too glossy, like I've done with the Porsche 917. It's not finished yet, I'll tone that down, don't worry. But you don't want it to go too glossy, and you don't want it to be too matte, and actually having it too matte is the bigger worry, because it's much easier to get it not glossy enough than it is to have it too glossy. It's a really nice kit though, kind of what I was expecting really. It's Tamiya, it's one of their cars, it's going to go together beautifully, and when you finish with it, it's going to look an absolute peach. My little collection of staples there, we're just getting rid of those over there. Where are we at then? Well, okay, so it's not as new as I thought. I think the plastic, if you look at Tamiyas today, even the metallic plastic, they're just, I've obviously changed their manufacturing process a little bit, and it would look much more perfect. Because in one of my videos, I don't often give out top tips and things, but I did this video called Rattle Can Top Tips and Other Techniques, or words to that effect. It's definitely worth watching, especially if you like subjects like this, like cars, motorbikes, things with high finishes. You should definitely check out the vid. I'll put a link alongside at the end of it, this video. I'll put your link over here or over here, because I think you'll find that useful if you're going to complete something like this. And in that I was talking about them having this perfect plastic, and the fact that on the Ferrari, and particularly on the McLaren, the 897 McLaren, the white plastic was so perfect and flawless But I didn't need to paint it in the end. I just decided it was pointless and gonna, you know, I didn't even put a heavy clear coat on it, just a very mild one, because I didn't want to risk messing it up. And it was so perfect. And you couldn't really do that with this, because this is not slightly earlier generation. It's not quite as perfect a plastic as that was. You need to paint that, so I recommend you go with this lacquer paint. I'm sure you get a really nice finish. What was it? LP70 aluminium silver. That sounds really nice. I must get some of that. Where am I at with it? Well, so it's not quite as new as I thought it was. That's my mistake. But it is, because it's a reissue. It may even have a date on when it gives the issue date. Yeah, see, it is 2021, so it's a reissue by having all these extra parts, the new cartograph decals and the new photo etch all included. I think I'm going to give it, I think it's 9.5 out of 10. I can't say 10 because it's not absolute state of the art and the latest plastic and everything. But apart from that, it's going to build into a lovely Sauber-Mercedes, and it's going to look the part. If you get the paint job right, that is going to look absolutely stunning. It really will. And it goes very nicely with my Porsche 917 Steve McQueen Le Mans car. If I ever finish it. I should have had it down here and show the latest progress. I might do that in a separate video in the near future. And we can talk about how I did the paint and how I did the clear coating, because it's quite interesting. I did it rather differently. Anyway, 9.5 out of 10. I hope you'll give me a 10 out of 10 with a big thumbs up. Don't forget to smash that like button. It's critical. And if you haven't been a subscriber before, please ding the subscribe button, because it costs you nothing. And every time I do a new video like this, you'll get early notification. As long as you do also remember to ding the notifications bell. And there has been some people finding them undinged, and mine's been undinged on some other people's channels as well. So just make sure you have double check it's been clicked. And that's it from me for now. Hope you enjoyed the show. I know that cars are never that popular. I look at my videos when I analyse the viewing figures. The cars and the motorbikes one, no. I never get very good viewings. I think that it's just not a subject that's as popular with some people. And I believe the reason is painting. It puts people off, it really does. But I would say to you, you know, maybe get a cheap car kit and just do some experimenting. I'll put you that link in so you can go look at my hints and tips for doing things like this. Some ways you can cheat your way to victory. Yeah, more cheating in my ways of doing these models than Flavio Briatore did in Formula 1, and he did a lot of cheating. Okay. Anyway, thanks very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed it, found it interesting. Please do look at the other videos, you'll find them very helpful, I'm sure. And in the meantime, until next time, thank you very much for joining me and all your time. Take care of yourselves. And bye for now.